You wrote about the State of the Union this morning in The Atlantic, and you talked about how there was no substance.
Right.
Tell me what you saw.
Well, this is a classic problem in the Trump presidency, which is when you say, normally in a State of the Union, when the president says, I want to pass the Roads and Bridges Act of 1997, there is, in fact, a Roads and Bridges Act, and that the president has built a coalition within the president's party, maybe done some reaching across the aisle, certainly talked to the roads and bridges people, and has got some buy-in from the relevant stakeholders. That doesn't happen in the Trump world. These things are just like, they're vaporware.
They were just words.
They're just words.
Phrases.
So there's, he talks about parental leave. There isn't really a parental leave bill. He talked about infrastructure. There isn't any of that. What he was doing was he couldn't decide between two approaches to this speech. The approach number one is meet your opponents halfway. You've just lost this big election. Be like Bill Clinton in 1995 and meet your opponents and try to build another coalition. And the other approach is like Barack Obama in 2011, Bill Clinton President Reagan in 1983. Stay the course with my agenda.
What's the point of the State of the Union speech?
Normally, the point of the State of the Union speech is to introduce the agenda for the coming year. The president goes through major, minor pieces of legislation, tries to mobilize public opinion to get Congress to go along with the president's agenda rather than follow its own.
It's just theater, though, it seems now.
Well, it's the most important work we do in democracy is the gaining of consent. The gaining of consent to govern. And there are a lot of different players, and this is the president's opportunity to go to what is normally the stronger body in terms of law passing and say, here are the things I want you to do. And all those people in TV land, they agree with me.
So when Republicans come out and say, I love the speech, do they know what the agenda is for the coming year?
What else are they supposed to say?
I don't know. Well, I mean, when they want to try and pass bills, I mean, infrastructure is something that has bipartisan support, or if they want to try and tackle health care again or tackle immigration, which they're trying to do right now in order to avert another government shutdown, what is the mandate?
Well, there isn't one. But what are the Republicans going to say? That was embarrassing. If you followed Mitch McConnell's face through this, as the president talked about price controls for pharmaceuticals and more trade wars with more countries, McConnell didn't look too happy. But they're not on oath when they come out afterwards and tell the cameras what they thought of what the president just said.
And what do you think of investigations and no legislation?
Well, one of the problems that Donald Trump has, and one of the things that has been corroding him, is he makes threats. And then people say, well, if I don't do that, what happens? And the answer is, well, I'll make more threats. And I think Nancy Pelosi sort of got his number in the past 2 weeks, realizing that the president doesn't have any muscle behind these threats.
He's also talking about unity and comedy. And yesterday he had a meeting, according to the New York Times, with a bunch of news anchors where he called Biden dumb, he called Schumer son of a bee, and he mocked John McCain, who, as we all know, died last year, said his book tanked when his book was actually #1. I mean, how do you, with a straight face, say that on national television and then trash people both behind the scenes and then publicly also on Twitter?
Well, you are a normal member of the human race who thinks that along with your rights against the rest of humanity, you have some responsibilities to humanity. Now, imagine you didn't see the world that way. Imagine that you felt that, well, other people owe me things, but I owe nothing to anybody. And then you could use the word unity to mean no one should criticize me, but that has no implications for how I behave. And that's the way Donald Trump thinks.